stand up facing a partner and listen carefully. Your name is Chris, both of you. Your name is Chris. You are 77 years old, and you haven't seen or heard from the person you're about to bump into for many, many years. You're in a busy, noisy train station called Manchester Central, and you only have a couple of minutes because you're in a hurry somewhere. Have a quick conversation and remember the last time you met many, many years ago in Manchester. Remember your name is Chris. Something big happened last time you met, and as the conversation goes on, you'll remember this very big thing, I mean big, that happened all those years ago. But you've only got a couple of minutes. Begin. Where I teach part-time, thanks to Delta Publishing, who published both of the books that I've written, Storytelling with Our Students and Spontaneous Speaking, which relate to the activities we're doing this afternoon. And I'm also freelance, and I work with Horizon Language Training as well. More about that later. Can I just ask, who in that little improvised role play that you did, who would say that what they did was actually tell a story? Well, let me tell you another. Who didn't tell a story? Okay. Basically, what you were doing was creating a story, wasn't it? Whose story was whose story was interesting? Could you just tell us the 10-second summary of your interesting stories?
Chris and Chris had fought together in the war, and they met each other and they were discussing their wives. Well, Chris's wife was deceased, unfortunately. My wife was still alive. Her name was, Maggie.
Was it a happy reunion?
It was a very happy reunion, but
emotional?
It was quite emotional, yes.
Thank you very much. Whose story is a funny story? Summarise, please.
Actually, we talked about the football game that was 52 years ago, Manchester United versus
Manchester
City. Yeah, and but we couldn't remember how it finished the evening because we bruised in red wine.
So getting drunk was a very cheerful and jolly memory. Who had quite a traumatic?
Very dramatic. We had traumatic. Yeah, we went at the railway station which burned 55 years ago, and but we both, Chris and Chris, found a lot of money, and Chris put it in the bank, and Chris stuck it in the garden.
Wow, that's sort of a criminal element. So, what happens is when we're improvising, we make stories. Okay. My name's David Heathfield. I've said that already. Okay, so what's this session? I chose cave art as my theme. It just came to me, just improvised. I feel that this ancient and probably sacred art, I wonder how planned it was, and how divinely inspired it was, and what stories are told in these paintings. Perhaps they were improvised. What do I mean when I say storytelling and improvising? Well, I'm thinking about storytelling drama activities today, and activities that are done without any preparation. Students just do it. Participants create, speak, listen, act, react spontaneously. And decisions about what to say and do are made on the spot. So why do it? Most spoken communication is unplanned in the world. Most times people speak, it is fairly spontaneous. Students learn to deal playfully with not knowing what comes next if we do improvisation in the classroom. And students pay close attention to their partners and respond creatively and spontaneously. Because in that activity, there was nothing between you. There was no paper, there was no worksheet. You were just face to face. Students listen carefully, speak clearly, and use language naturally and creatively. 20 years ago, I was doing drama workshops with a good friend called Phil Clark, who was a mask maker. And we were doing a mask performance, and really learning about improvisation, being in the moment. And as a birthday present, Phil gave me a book, which some of you will know, called Impro. Impro was written by Heath Johnston, and it's a seminal book. It's the book that everyone refers to when it comes to drama improvisation. It's this decision not to try and control the future, which allows the students to be spontaneous. He wasn't talking about language students necessarily, he was talking about students who are looking at theatre skills and spontaneity. Similarly, another artist, Dave Brubeck, a jazz musician, said on Desert Island Discs in 1999, when doing jazz improvisation, you need a structure, otherwise the musicians won't want to play. So let's forget the idea of improvisation being completely free. It can be, we can have free improvisation, that's quite challenging. What I gave you in that scenario we just did was a constraint, was a framework. And those frameworks give students the opportunity to be creative. And in this story, there's a character called Aldar Kozia. This story was told to me by Asiya Omarova, a student of mine from Kazakhstan a couple of years ago. And I've taught many students from Kazakhstan, and I often ask my students to tell me stories. And this is the story that I'm most often told by my Kazakh students. It's called Aldar Kozia Tricks the Bide. So, please could I ask you to stand up facing a partner. One of you is Aldar Kozia. You are poor and you are clever. You're riding in the deepest winter on the steppes in Kazakhstan. The snow is so deep, but you're riding on your bony old horse. And you're wearing your old coat your father gave to you, and that coat is full of holes. So many holes. You're so cold, you're worried if you'll ever get back to safety. And coming in the opposite direction, you see the Bai. The Bai is the rich landowner, an important man, very important, very self-important man. And the Bai is wearing a beautiful, thick fur coat, and he's riding on his fine horse, a powerful beast, and he's wearing a fur hat on his head. And Aldar Kozia looks at this self-important fellow and thinks, I want that coat. But he hasn't got any money to pay for it. Before you begin, can I just ask for a couple of ideas? What strategies might Aldar Kozia use to get that coat from the Bai? Flattery. Flattery. Oh, pity. Pity, yes.
Compassion, guilt tripping.
Guilt. And you said? Fashion. Oh, compassion. It could be fashion, couldn't it? You know, oh look, it's the latest fashion to have a coat full of holes. Any other ideas? Okay, I'm gonna give an exception here. There's no physical contact in this activity. So no physical violence. No physical violence. You could use psychological violence. It's wielding. Psychological violence. Why not?
Barter trade.
Barter
trade. Barter trade.
Barter. Okay, so a promise. Because he hasn't got anything now, but maybe you can promise something for the future. So a favour, some kind of bartering. Okay.
Magic.
That's it. That's enough for now. He's got no money.
Magic.
I don't know what strategies you're going to try to use, but Aldar Kozia in the next 2 minutes is going to try to get that coat from the rich man, and I don't know whether he's going to succeed or not. The buy, you're going to make lots of excuses not to give your coat away. But remember, you're not as clever as Aldar Kozia. So let's see what happens. So you're both riding on your horses, you're getting closer and closer. 3, 2, 1, begin! Another technique.
Yeah,
What technique
she was
did you use?
fantastic. Fairy tale.
I convinced him that all of the holes in my coat were where I had taken threads out and embroidered a special emblem onto the coat of all the other kings and queens that had passed. And that if he left his coat with me for an hour, I could embroider a special emblem.
You never know what the students might come up with when it comes to improvisation. We're giving them a framework, but we never know. Wonderfully out of our control.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you the story that Asiya told to me, and I'd like you to listen, and afterwards just to compare the traditional tale from Kazakhstan with the story that you created. You seem to be very attentive. Aldar Kozia was riding on his old bony horse in the deep snow of the steppes. It was bitterly cold, mid-winter. He wore the old coat his father had given him, a coat full of holes, 70 holes. He was freezing. He was trying to keep himself warm. Would he ever get home? And there he saw, in the distance, coming towards him, the buy, the rich man, the landowner in his fine fur coat, his fur hat, riding on his magnificent beast. His horse came closer and closer, and Aldar Kozia quickly opened his coat and closed it, flapping it open and closed, and sang a song in praise of sunshine. Oh, the sun, how warm! What? Said the buy. Warm? What are you saying? It is so cold, the coldest day of the winter. Ah, but I have this coat, see, said Aldar Kozia. It is my magic coat. I got this coat from my father. But it is full of holes, said the buy. It may be full of holes, said Aldar Kozia, but do you not see how the holes let the cold air out? Ah, said the buy, this is an interesting coat. I would have that coat. My father gave it to me, said Aldar Kozia. I am an important man. I will have that coat. My coat will be yours in exchange. I cannot give the coat away, said Aldar Kozia. This is my father's coat. He said I should never give it away. Give me that coat, said the buy. I will give you my coat, I will give you my hat as well. No. My horse, then, in exchange for yours. I want to have that coat. I cannot give it away, said Aldar Kozia. I made a promise to my father, and I remember now my father warned me that something would happen if I gave it away, and I don't remember what that warning was. But I cannot give it to you. Give me the coat. I will give you my coat, my hat, my horse. I will give you this bag of gold. What can I do? Aldar Kozia got down from his old bony horse. He took off his raggedy coat full of holes and he gave it to the rich man. The rich man, the buy, gave him his thick fur coat. He put it on Aldar Kozia. He put on the warm hat. He climbed onto the great horse and he rode away. But as he rode away, more quickly now, through the snow, he heard behind him a voice. Hey, stop, come back, come back. This coat doesn't work. It's not working, I say. Come back. Oh, said Aldar Kozia over his shoulder. I remember now what my father warned. The magic only works for me. Okay, so very quickly, probably do it less, in a shorter time than we would give students, but could you just, what are the key differences between your version of the story and the traditional Kazakh version? Please. It seems that humans are hardwired for story. We use it to make sense of the world. So, both in your earlier improvisation, right at the beginning of the session, and in the improvisation you did then in advance of hearing the story, a narrative was being created. Many neuroscientists, this is one example, Antonio Damasio says, storytelling is something brains do, naturally and implicitly. It pervades the entire fabric of human societies and cultures. And more happens. There's a reincorporation that goes on when we're improvising. The improviser doesn't think about the future. So we spend so much time preparing students for speaking, but when we're doing speaking, the improviser doesn't prepare students, doesn't pay attention to the future. His story is in the moment, taking him anywhere, but he must still give it shape by remembering incidents and reincorporating them. So often, when we're getting students to do improvisation, they're not thinking future, they're thinking now and what I've already said in this dialogic interaction, and then maybe referring back to points. And that'll be something that we might come to if we get into a third activity. If you were a language learner, and of course most of you are, perhaps all of you are, if you were a language learner regularly doing improvisation activities in your class, what would you say as a learner are the benefits? Could you just think of any benefits that you as a learner would feel, perhaps, if you imagine, to your partner? Interrupt again, that's too. I want to let you know what students have said. So I've done various bits of action research over many years to do with improvisation. This is what students that I've taught and colleagues have taught over the years have written in feedback. Okay, so these are some of the students' comments. Maybe they might be similar to some of the things you said. So students have said, extended speaking. I spoke for longer during these activities than I do in most classroom speaking activities. These are my paraphrases of different comments they've written. I've put them into, made sense of them. Not just our mind, not just our brain, but bodies, minds, emotions, interpersonal skills. I feel I'm developing spontaneity, I'm getting more fluent, I'm building up my confidence in English interaction. The creative content comes from us. We're being creative. It's playful. These activities are they're very energetic, they give us energy, they get us be playing with language. Oh yeah, I couldn't read my own writing then. Laughter. They laughed more than they do during most activities. And, they really listened to each other. We really listened to each other, 100%. Nothing was in the way. And, lots more speaking than in most classroom activities, which is similar to the first one, but the difference, I think I meant to make it a bit clearer, is extended speaking turns in the conversation, rather than one person speak for a moment, the other person speak for a moment. The turns tend to be longer when they're doing improvisation. Keith Johnston, going back to the Impro book, people often say, well, it's difficult. My students, or I'm not imaginative. But everybody's imaginative, because that's how we experience the world. Johnston says, it's possible to turn unimaginative people into imaginative people at a moment's notice. We don't need preparation to be imaginative. In fact, the more we prepare, the less imaginative we are. Maria Nieves Lopez. She's from Venezuela. I met her on the beach. I asked her for a story. I always ask people, if you tell a story tomorrow, I might retell your story myself. And she told this story. It's called, listen carefully, Little Dog panther, and monkey. Can you say it back to me? Little dog, panther, and monkey. Little dog is very smart. Little dog is lost in the forest, but he is smart. He's lost in the forest, and he's helpless. Panther is ravenously hungry, but not so smart. And what's the other one? Monkey is a bit foolish and jealous. Jealous of how smart the little dog is. So please could you tell the story, it's a very short story, of little dog, panther and monkey with the person next to you. One of you will begin. Once upon a time there was a little dog who was lost in the forest. And then with your partner you can tell the story. Either the partner can ask questions to help the storyteller, or you can just take in turns to tell the story. Do it as you wish. You've got 2 minutes to tell the story. Once upon a time. Little dog, Perrito, was lost in the forest. He had never been alone in the forest before. He had never had to feed himself. He went sniffing along through the forest until he caught the scent of bones. He came to a great pile of white, shining bones. But as he sniffed at those bones, he caught another scent. Behind him, he could smell the wild and dangerous and hungry panther. That panther's going to eat me. The little dog thought quickly. He licked the bones and said, "Oh, I am still hungry. I wish another panther would come along so I could eat it." And that panther heard and turned tail and ran back into the forest. But up in the tree, there was a monkey was jealous. That little dog, he thinks he's so smart. I'm going to teach him a lesson, said Monkey. And Monkey went swinging off through the trees until Monkey found Panther. And he told Panther how he had been tricked. And he jumped onto Panther's back, and Panther came padding back through the forest. Little dog was still lost. He was still near those white bones, and he smelt the panther and a monkey on his back. What can he do? Panther's coming back. He's going to eat me. Little dog was smart, and he licked at the bones again, and he cried out as loud as he could, "I wish that monkey would hurry up and bring that panther as he promised he would." And Panther, he turned and he fled. And Panther was furious. And it wasn't the little dog that Panther had for his supper that day. And Maria said to me, "Don't be like the panther and believe everything you're told. Don't be like the monkey and go round telling tales. Be like little dog. Improvise."